Hello, Liverpool fans. I was planning on doing a follow-up to the PSG game yesterday. Fortunately, something else came up, but getting to it belatedly today, and also going to take a quick look forward to the Sunday Merseyside derby, the first one at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, Everton's new ground. So I don't think anybody expected that Liverpool would beat PSG, certainly on current form. And definitely after a performance in the first leg that Jurgen Klopp's, sorry, not Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot, that was a slip. Arne Slot has really been coming in for criticism. And that first leg display didn't really ease the situation on him when he could have potentially, with the lineup, played a more adventurous 3-5-2 with attacking wing backs, but instead opted to keep his wing backs defensively, and consequently it was more of a 5-3-2. So what was the manager going to do for the second leg? And in between, we had that game with Fulham, which many Liverpool fans, myself included, were concerned about. And actually, they turned out a decent performance, especially in the first half. Personnel was changed. Andy Robertson and Rio Engamoa on the left-hand side in particular made an impression. And then Mo Salah had one of his better games this season, with both he and Rio scoring to give a 2-0 win. So what would Arne Slot take from that game, and would he put anything into it for the PSG second leg? And the answer was no. So he did bring something out of left field, and that was deciding to start Alexander Isak as a striker up with Hugo Ekitike. And I think it's one of those decisions that if Isak gets involved and scores a couple of goals, the manager's brilliant. But it was a gamble, and it was a gamble that didn't really pay off because Isak wasn't really involved in the first half. I understand he only touched the ball 5 times and came off at half time. And then I do have to make a note about Hugo Ekitike because it's only a couple of weeks ago that he was here in Boston playing for the French national team and scoring a very good goal, very well taken goal against Brazil. And sadly, he has an Achilles injury and he's out for 9 months. He's going to miss the World Cup. And I think Liverpool are going to miss him as well because he's certainly a talent, and just very, very gutted for the lad. So anyway, what was the first half performance like? It was kind of a step up from the Paris display in terms of they were a little more positive, but overall you'd have to say you could see what a good team PSG are. They can possess the ball, they press. They're very good at finding players going forward in attacking positions, and they're constantly dangerous. Liverpool did have their moments, and ironically maybe had the best chance of the first half when the goalie made a good save. I can't recall who the save was from. It might have been from Wirtz. And then it looked like Virgil van Dijk was going to knock the ball into the net, and Marquinhos, the veteran Brazilian defender, give him tremendous credit, made a great block, and the chance was gone. And then finally in the second half, a couple of changes were made. Isak went off, Cody Gakpo came on, Joe Gomez came on at right fullback. And all of a sudden, Liverpool started to play in the way that we wanted them to play from the first whistle and really try to draw on the crowd and take the game to the opponent. And for a while, PSG were locked in their own half, and Liverpool did make chances. Goalie made a couple of good saves, and things were looking good for Liverpool. But unfortunately, a little bit like the Manchester City game the other week, they ran out of gas. Although, to be fair, they didn't drop their heads this time. And Ousmane Dembele scored a very good goal to effectively end the tie. And okay, he finally decided to roll the dice a little bit and bring on Engamoa and company. But I think overall that we'd have liked to have seen the second half performance in the first half. I mean, because basically Liverpool were 2 goals down. And just looking back to games of past eras when Liverpool have had these big European nights, there's usually been a take it to the opponent attitude from the first whistle. And we didn't get that against PSG on Wednesday night. So we weren't expecting a win. So I guess we can't be disappointed from that point of view. Could Liverpool have given a little bit more? Possibly. So that leaves a very, very interesting situation, not just for Arne Slot, but for the club and the fans going into, as I said earlier, this first game on Sunday at the the Hill Dickinson Stadium. And you have to say that this has to be the first time in a long, long time that maybe the blue half of Merseyside is looking forward to a derby game more than the red half. Now, I've watched quite a few Everton games this season, and I have to say, David Moyes has done an incredible job overall. I know there are still a handful of Blues who are doubtful about him, but he has really invigorated the club in the year that he's been at the helm. And Everton are in a much, much better situation than they've been for a long time. I mean, obviously, they're not fighting against relegation. They have a new stadium, a beautiful new stadium to play at. And that's going to bring in a lot more revenue for the future. And then they actually have a bench now. Now, you can kind of look at the bigger picture and say, well, they don't have a team and they don't have depth to maybe play in the Champions League or the Europa League or anything like that. But the irony is that they do have a chance. And so I know that Liverpool, my team, our team, we have to look over our shoulders, and Everton's not that far behind. And I'm sure one of the things that David Moyes will be selling his team is that if they get 3 points on Sunday, then Everton are really in the mix for a European place and possibly even a Champions League place, because you have a situation where the top three look to be pretty set. Or actually, the top two. Manchester United lost on Monday, didn't they? But you've got Manchester United, you've got Aston Villa, who would be favourites to make it. And then you've got ourselves and you've got Chelsea. And you have to be honest and say that neither Liverpool or Chelsea are exactly tearing up trees right now. They seem to be similarly inconsistent. And so for teams like Everton and Brentford, who they ironically played last week, might be looking at it and thinking, hey, we've got a real chance of getting in on this and the Champions League place for next year. So I think the interesting thing is that Everton should be really up for this game. They've had a rest since they played Brentford. Liverpool have had that big game against PSG. And Hill Dickinson is going to be apparently back at Goodison type levels for this game, because this is the big chance. And it'll be interesting to see whether David Moyes, who sometimes can be a little conservative, and I understand why in his situation, whether he will mirror what Arne Slot did on Wednesday and maybe not go for it early. I mean, I think if I was an Everton fan, I would want them down Liverpool's necks from first whistle onwards. Take the game to them, not just in terms of being aggressive physically, but in terms of ball possession, looking to get forward and put Liverpool under pressure. And as a fan, I have to be honest. I mean, Liverpool's team spirit has certainly gone from the Jurgen Klopp days. And you saw at Manchester City how the heads could drop. So how will they be mentally after the PSG game? No chances of silverware. And, things haven't been looking as great for Liverpool Football Club of late compared to recent seasons. So Liverpool are vulnerable. And I know as a fan that I'm concerned, and many of my fellow Reds are concerned as well. So advice for Arne Slot, not that he would ever take it, is I would play a team more along the lines of the Fulham game. And one thing that did surprise me with the Fulham game was that Liverpool did play with some energy in that first half. And looking back to the first derby game of the season, which was very, very early on, Liverpool, in that opening stretch of 5 games where they weren't playing that well, I thought their best half was the first half against Everton. And can they replicate that again? It'll be harder, I think, at Hill Dickinson, but that's what they have to be aiming for as a minimum. So, looking at Fulham, bring back Andy Robertson. God, bring him back. I mean, Liverpool are just so much more fluid with Robertson in the team than when Kirkus is there. Kirkus has improved, and he's the future. But get the best out of the experience and the ability of Andy Robertson before he leaves. And he links up well with Rio over on the left. So I think that's one thing that has to happen. Gakpo, I know he's had his critics this year, but for me, he's just one of many Liverpool players that hasn't hit the heights of previous seasons. You've really got to play him as a lone striker, Salah over on the other side of the field. And then you have the conundrum with Jeremy Frimpong. Now, I don't know if Joe Gomez is fit. Personally, I would prefer Gomez. I would prefer Gomez because NDI has had a great season for the Blues, and he's their top player right now. So I think you've got a matchup there, and I think Gomez is a better matchup. Personally, against PSG, I felt that Liverpool should have loaded up in the wide areas, and I see people saying Frimpong had a poor game against PSG, and he's going to when he's playing against Kvaratskhelia. So why not play Gomez in that game and then play Frimpong ahead of him? Because you know Frimpong will give the team something going forward. But anyway, I would prefer Gomez over Frimpong for this particular game on Sunday. And you've got a matchup in the midfield as well, because Dewsbury Hall has been a really good signing for Everton, and he plays with a lot of commitment, a lot of energy, and he's picking up goals going forward. So I think you've got to take care of him. So I think Gravenberg and Szoboszlai, because you know that they're mobile and everything, and you really got to play those guys. But I think overall, one thing that will determine the derby on Sunday is what Liverpool's mentality is compared to Everton's, because as I say, if Everton don't take the game to Liverpool early on, I think they're missing a big chance because of Liverpool's really wavering up and down mentality game to game, and it could be low after the elimination in the Champions League. So a forecast, I mean, usually with these derby games, I usually forecast that a draw is a likely result, because typically Everton have played a tight, conservative game and made it hard for Liverpool. And to quote Arne Slot many times this season, Liverpool do not like their low blocks. But I don't think Everton will play a low block on Sunday. But I think that what I would say is a draw. But whereas in the past, I would say, well, if it comes down to ability and everything that goes along with it, Liverpool are the more likely team to win. I think based on what we've seen this season, I'd have to reverse that a little bit. I think Liverpool has a more talented squad, but they're not a team. And I think we saw last Saturday, and I did watch the Brentford game, Everton are a team. And that's one area where they have an edge on Liverpool going into this game. So I'm not going to forecast that Liverpool will lose, but I think, as with many Reds, that I'm questioning that if it comes down to 50-50, who has the edge? Maybe this time, for once, Everton is the team with the edge. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping to do something with Salim after the game. Maybe in the evening, perhaps, because I won't be able to watch the game live as my teams are playing. But either way, hope it's a great game. You'll never walk alone, and hope to hear from you. Please subscribe to the channel. Bye now.